Hello and welcome to the SCI-AI podcast. Today, my guest is James Barrat. What a great honor to have James here. Hello, James. How are you doing?
I'm doing well. Thank you, Vivek. Good to see you.
Why did you write this book? Why do you think it is our last invention?
We humans have a mixed record with technology. Our pattern has been to innovate first and then do stewardship second.
Right.
Create new inventions and then sweep up after them. It happened with nuclear fission. We split the atom and we got a lot of energy, but we also got terrible weapons that destroyed two cities. And right now we have a gun in our heads with several nations around the world threatening to use their nuclear weapons and wipe out millions of people. So you can't say overall nuclear fission has been a success. I think AI is following the same track. As the late Stephen Hawking said, in the short term, the problem is who controls the AI. And in the long term, the problem is, can the AI be controlled at all? And right now we're going through an AI revolution, and it seems inevitable to me that we will create machines within the next couple of decades that are more intelligent than we are. And as Arthur C. Clarke said to me during an interview 20 years ago, Arthur C. Clarke, the science fiction writer and physicist, he said, we humans steer the future not because we're the fastest creature or the strongest creature, but because we're the most intelligent. When we share the planet with a machine that's more intelligent than we are, they will steer the future. And I think that's a simple axiom that helps us understand the situation we're in right now.
Although it is a great tool for us, it is helping our different kind of industries grow, like healthcare, like finance, and like so many sectors that AI has penetrated. But do you envision that eventually it will become a weapon for the rich to fight against with each other, or the countries to fight against with each other?
Right now, everything that's electrified is becoming cognitized. Intelligence is being added to everything that's electrified. Everything in your house, all your appliances are getting smart. They have their own ISPN address. Your house itself is going to be intelligent. You'll have an intelligent house. It'll be part of the smart energy grid already, smart factories where the products tell the factory what pieces they need, smart warehouses that are inventorying themselves, and then ultimately there'll be smart cities. So in the short term, I think we'll get a lot of interesting benefits. As you mentioned, healthcare has benefited, although some of that benefit has been overproduced. The radiology part is not working all that well. The diagnostic part is not working all that well. IBM's Watson just closed down its whole medical division because it wasn't working. The sky is the limit if we navigate the next 10 or 15 years well. AI is a dual use technology. Dual use means it's capable of great good, but also great harm. You know, it's already being weaponized. We're seeing the development of autonomous battlefield robots and drones. Like fission, it's being weaponized. I do think we'll be using it against each other. Cognitive architectures that are very, very good at hacking and destroying. Somebody could develop a weapon that could hack and destroy our banking system, that could hack and destroy our electrical grid and shut down everything. And that would be totally catastrophic. The United States is composed of several electrical grids. If you shut down any one of them, the others could help a little bit, but you would have vast areas that would have no power at all. And that really, without refrigeration, a lot of people die. I see its weaponization happening. My thesis with Our Final Invention, the book, is that the ultimate competition isn't between America and China or Microsoft and Apple. It's between humans and machines. And I think we have 10, 20 years to figure out who's going to win.
Is it too naive to think that one day, if it seriously becomes so strong, then think about it like a bad, evil person, something like a Hitler? Imagine if he's a robot with an AI algorithm in his head. Why can't he decide to do something wherein all the protocols, all the rules that other countries will set up in terms of security and others, he can still breach them by getting that kind of power and generate that kind of support for himself?
A couple of things. One, you mentioned a robot Hitler. The intelligence that I'm really afraid of isn't even in robot form. It's a cognitive architecture that has access to the web. It will be decentralized, so it will be impossible to turn off. It will be able to travel anywhere. it can hack into all our systems. That's the one I'm scared of, the one that doesn't have a body. Its body is basically everywhere. Elon Musk is the one who said we could end up with a dictator that never dies. People, especially technologists, they suffer from a bias, a cognitive bias called the familiarity bias. And that's basically the idea that nothing like this has happened before, so it can't happen. That's what they think. That's A. And B, they're all being paid a lot of money. This is not what you want the president of Apple to come out and say, although it's very interesting. One of the co-founders of DeepMind, Demis Hassibis, but he said, as we reach this point of no return where we create smarter than human machines, he's concerned that the tech companies who are building it will not be able to get together to make sure it's safe. They won't be able to get together and slow down their development to try and make that passage from smarter than human to thousands of times smarter than human, to make that safe. Stuart Russell, who wrote the standard text for AI called AI, A Modern Approach, is very concerned about this. This is called, we call it overall the control problem. How do you control something 1,000 or millions of times more intelligent than we are? So he wrote the standard book on the text everybody uses to teach artificial intelligence. And he said it's an impending problem. Bill Gates said, in the short term, we're going to get a lot of benefits from AI, but in the long term, we may lose control. And he said, I don't know why more people aren't worried about it. We're opening Pandora's box. AI is our greatest existential threat, the greatest threat to our existence. So a lot of people who are pretty smart about technology, including some of the founders of the modern techniques of AI, they're concerned about this issue as well.
Young people, because they can code well and because they're so pumped up about the idea of, well, we are going to transform the whole humanity by this, do not understand that till they achieve that kind of maturity, that historically, if you see, we have not built great things before make more damages for the humanity.
Again, with fission, we thought of fission back in the 20s and 30s when we weren't even sure it was possible. We thought, well, if we could split the atom, we would get free energy and this period of utopia would follow. But look what happened. And that's really where we are right now. You couldn't have told those people in the 20s and 30s, those physicists, you couldn't have told them that soon, within 20 more years, we'd wipe out entire cities full of people. And we would hold a gun to our heads for 50 years with the nuclear arms race. You couldn't have convinced them of that. Just like you can't convince the technologists of today that AI poses. I think that's true as I said, of our civilization, but it's particularly true of the kinds of people who rise to the ranks of CEO of tech companies. They're paid in amounts that we can't even fathom, but that blinds them to a lot of the realities of this technology. I mean, there are obvious problems right now with data bias. The bias in data that there's a lot of algorithms that choose who can get into colleges. A lot of that is bias against minorities and women. There are algorithms that determine prison sentences, and in America, and because, especially in the state of Florida, Black people got longer sentences in years past. They used that very same data to create the current sentencing algorithm. So it's bias, and Black people still get longer prison sentences, fewer paroles. Amazon had a hiring algorithm that was biased against women. Amazon's a big player in AI. We've got 52 nations developing battlefield robots and drones. A handful of them are developing autonomous battlefield robots and drones that make the kill decision without a human in the loop. And these are probably being tested right now. It was a long time, our CIA had a long secret war in Central Asia using drones, piloted drones. But it wouldn't surprise me at all to learn that autonomous drones are in the air right now that pick targets and make the kill decision without humans. By 2030, according to the accounting company Gartner and Company, AI and automation will take 30% of all jobs, not just blue-collar jobs, repetitious jobs like factory work or truck driving, but white collar jobs like lawyers, doctors, businessmen of all kinds.
Elon Musk said that we need to have an alternative because what we are doing on Earth, not just from a climate change perspective, but even from a technology war perspective that is going on. You mentioned autonomous drones and all. Do we need to secure that so that humanity doesn't get extincted and we need to find an alternate home for ourselves?
It's incredibly naive of Elon Musk to think that AI wouldn't follow us to our new home. Imagine something 1,000 times more intelligent than we are. Certainly it can figure out how we got to Mars. It's probably it would be on board the spaceship anyway, as some kind of cognitive architecture. I mean, the best way to get to Mars would be to have an extremely smart pilot that was AI and could stay awake all those 3 years that it took to get there. Plus, there's many problems about traveling to Mars that we could really use AI to figure out, like the whole radiation problem, terrible effects that happen to the human body under zero gravity. You should take all the money headed for Mars and invest it in battling climate change, which AI may also be. I don't see why we need to be a spacefaring culture. We're going to have 10.5 billion people by 2050 in the world, and we really don't know how to feed them. Right now we have a terrible food security problem. We have, if you take 8 cities the size of Chicago and fill them with children, that's how many children die each year from malnutrition in the world. 8 massive cities of 7 million each year. That seems to me to be a bigger problem than trying to go to Mars. I'm glad about what he's doing with reusable rockets. I think that's amazing. And I think Elon Musk really is a visionary and a genius, because he's revolutionized electronic cars, he's revolutionized batteries, and he's revolutionizing rocket travel.
When we go from a tool-based AI to a human-level intelligence AI, which is also called the artificial general intelligence or super intelligence, what do you think that's going to happen or not? And if you think that it's going to happen, how catastrophic can it be for us?
Well, right now, I'm following the development of AI, and it's very interesting because we're stuck in a paradigm that's all about deep learning and neural networks. And neural networks are very roughly modeled on the human brain. And deep learning is just kind of an advanced neural network. And they've created some pretty amazing programs. There's one called GPT-3. They claim that it's general intelligence already. It does 604 different things. But there are obviously some problems with it. It's not really general intelligence.
Right.
It does 604 things, 50% of them at an expert level, but it doesn't do everything reliably. GATO is the program, the architecture that does 604 things. GATO is smaller than GPT-3 or some of the other big architectures, because I think they want to put it in a robot eventually, so they need to keep it fairly small. It's a stepping stone on the way to general artificial intelligence, but it's not there yet. There was a statistician in the 1960s. His name was I.J. Good. Quotation. He says, once we create machines that are smarter at humans at everything we do, they'll also be smarter than all humans at developing artificial intelligence. And so the pace of intelligence will increase. The intelligence of this machine will far outstrip our own intelligence. And that idea is called the intelligence explosion. And I think, so the stepping stone is you get to artificial general intelligence, and then you have what's called a short or a long takeoff, or what's the next step after you get machines as smart as us? The next step is they get smarter and faster, but at what pace? If they're now developing AI, if they're doing the AI research and development, then the pace will be very quick because they operate 24/7. Ray Kurzweil, the inventor and futurist, said that by 2029 we should have a computer that makes 800,000 trillion calculations per second, and that is what he thinks is the number of calculations per second in a brain. He wants to make it an online service, so basically human level intelligence as an online service. But imagine what you could do with that kind of brain. You could link 100 of these PhD quality brains together to battle climate change, to develop pharmaceuticals, to develop weapons. It would be an incredibly valuable product.
Right.
But that, what happens right after that is we suddenly are sharing the planet with machines that are 1,000 or millions of times more intelligent than we are, in a rational mathematical sense. I'm not talking about musical intelligence or kinesthetic intelligence like dancers have, but rational mathematical intelligence. The thing is, we just don't know how we will cease to understand what it is doing. Stephen Hawking said it will be able to develop weapons that we don't understand. Nothing it does will we be able to understand. Right now, if you look around and you see animals that are maybe, I imagine I'm at least 100 times smarter than my dog. My dog doesn't really know what's going on most of the time. He knows when it's time to eat. He knows about 20 commands. But in terms of the big picture, no. That's the way it's going to be with us and super intelligence.